Thank you, Madam Chair. I greatly appreciate it. I think it's interesting that Orwell was brought up, it was doublespeak. What's interesting about that is the actual history of the body of water previously known as the Gulf of Mexico, because my colleague on the other side said, it was been settled for 500 years. That's just not accurate. The great Spanish, from the Spanish Netherlands, at the time, the great cartographer Ortelius labeled it on his maps, and I have one of those maps, is a disputed map, but I collect antique maps, and one of his maps, or on his maps, he referred to it as the Sea of the North. It's been called the Sea of the North. Cortez liked that name. Others have called it the Gulf of Cortez. Others have called it the Gulf of Yucatan. There have been a lot of different names. Now, here's what's interesting. When we take a look at this, and one can question the timing, and one can argue, is this the right time? I would argue it should have been probably 1803, when Louisiana, which was once part of the Spanish provinces in the New World, was sold by the Spanish to the French, and then to the French. And the French had had it before and then traded with the Spanish, but the Spanish at one time in their territories of New Spain or Mexico had what are now the states of Florida, claims to Alabama, Mississippi, clear title to Louisiana, and of course Texas. And as time went on, the United States in 1802 made a treaty with the Spanish to get Florida. So one could argue in 1802 it probably should have been changed to the Gulf of America. One could argue 1803 when the French got it back, or when they sold the Louisiana territory to the United States, it should have become the Gulf of America. One could certainly argue that when Texas seceded from Mexico, at that point more of the shoreline belonged to territories other than the country of Mexico, that it should have been changed. And one certainly should argue that James K. Polk missed this one, because when he came along and they had the Mexican-American War and brought in those territories, and you had Texas then joining the Union a little bit later, certainly by that point in time it should have been the Gulf of America. I'm trying to figure out why we waited so long, and when it was first proposed, I'd never thought of it. When it was first proposed, I thought, this is something that should have happened in the 19th century, when a greater portion of the waters or the shores of what is today called the Gulf of Mexico touched parts of the United States of America. But further, and this oftentimes drives the Canadians and some folks in Mexico crazy, we're all part of North America. This is the great North. This is the great North American continent, and we're naming it Gulf of America. That seems to be a much better name. Now, I posited, Madam Chair, that perhaps, and I don't know the answer to this, that perhaps they didn't do that because until the name was changed, there was somewhere in the Arctic, in what is now Russian territory, a small gulf that was known by some cartographers as the Gulf of America, and maybe they thought they'd create confusion. I don't know if that's accurate or not, Madam Chair. I just submit that when you look at the history of the body of water, the name should have been changed in the 19th century, and we're way behind times.